All right, everybody, welcome to the show today. This is Warren Ballantyne, aka WB. Welcome to Common Ground, where we try to find solutions to problems, where we try to be humanitarians, where we try to have a conversation without blame, but more importantly, where we try to always talk from the position of love. And family, today we're sitting down with a young man who has been doing legendary work before he was even old enough to drive. I'm talking about Aaron Avant Johnson. Now, this brother launched his own production company at 9 years old. By 12, he wrote a book published pushing kids to chase entrepreneurship early. By 13, he won his first film award for a powerful short about loss and healing. By 14, he wrote another book to help teens fight mental battles. Since then, he's created more than 21 film projects stemming on places like Tubi TV and Amazon. He's also been honored by NBC, ABC, Essence, BET, in the state of Florida, and some of the most respected names in the business. He has spoken to over 100 schools and youth centers and served as a youth ambassador for the Trayvon Martin Foundation, earned a proclamation for the city of Miami, and picked up international awards in London and Milan for his filmmaking. He's even received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award in 2023, one of the highest honors in this country, recognizing his leadership and impact at such a young age. In 2025, he launched the Lights Camera Connection platform and released his documentary, Embracing the Dream, on Amazon Prime, telling the story of his family's journey from homelessness to Hollywood. This brother is not waiting for the industry to open doors. He's kicking them down and building his own house. Aaron, welcome to Common Ground, brother.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. What an introduction. I said you reminded me about some stuff I forgot. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that.
Now, look, that's what's up. When you get so many awards, you didn't forget all about it. You didn't forget all about it.
Listen, I may be young, but my mind is about 83, so you know.
Brother, I feel you on that. And Aaron, let me ask you, man, because you started this journey at 9 years old. What made you believe you could run a production company before you were even a teenager?
First off, I want to say that I'm gonna be honest. My parents believed in me. That's something I would say, which is a big thing. I would not be where I am, without my parents. Anytime I have opportunity to speak, I will always give homage, to my amazing parents because, when you're a 9-year-old kid, a lot of 9-year-olds don't know what they want to be. One day we want to be an astronaut, next day a doctor,
Right?
one day this and
Right?
that.
Right?
But yeah, what happened? She was trying to figure out how to like put together a slideshow. By this point, I didn't have any experience editing or being on the back end. By this time, I actually was looking into being an actor. I was just like, well, something in this entertainment field is calling me. But at the age of 9, my mom, she was trying to figure that out. She couldn't figure it out. She was like, I can't get this. I said, Mom, slap me the laptop. Let me see if I can figure my way around this. And I did, and I created the presentation that she was trying to do. And after that, I was just like, well, whatever this is, I think I want to do this. Whatever this process is. And that slowly ventured me into being a filmmaker. That journey started at 9. I said I'm gonna open up my own production company, and I did that. And I was the little kid with the big camera, shooting everybody music videos and weddings and funerals and all of that. And then I was getting really good opportunities being that young. When I look back and you're like 13 directing videos for like the legendary Miss Betty Wright, and you having all of these different opportunities at such a young age. That it's really nothing but God. So that was kind of like the origin of how I led into it. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, man, there's nothing like having parents who believe in you when you're young, and they tell you you can do anything you think you want to do. Any dream you got, we believe you. Let's go do it. That's
Oh
that's
yeah.
such a blessing, man. And I can tell your parents. I don't know their background, but I know they have a keen eye about entrepreneurship because at 12 you wrote a book about entrepreneurship. Talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that. You pushing kids to learn about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, honestly, that was my mom. My mom encouraged me to write the book. By this time I was, a young entrepreneur, really just working, and I didn't have the typical kid schedule. I would go to school for a certain amount of hours and then I would have to leave because I had to be on set or I had, projects to do. My dad, he was like my one man band. He would load up all of the equipment, all of the lights and, the cameras and all that stuff. He'll be my sound guy on set. And so my mom, she was just like, well, you know what? There's other kids out here, that have businesses or that may want to start businesses. And during that time, I would say I'm being honest, it was a legendary era during that time because it wasn't just me that was, doing these things. I look at, even some of my peers, that was doing amazing things at the same age. We was all in different states, some was in LA, some was in Baltimore, some was, in New York, but, I definitely wasn't the only one, which made me want to write this book. So I wrote the book. It's called You Are Never Too Young. And that book was about pushing kids to believe that they are never too young to achieve whatever it is that they wanted to do. Because I was a 12-year-old that was living that. I didn't wait until I was 18 to say, you know what, I think I'm gonna start a production company. I think I'm gonna do this. And I was like, nah, if God gifted me with the talents and abilities now, that's what I'm gonna go for. And I've always been the ambitious type. I've always been ambitious type. Always been the self-taught, type. I went to the best university called YouTube University, and and let's just say that university taught me a whole lot. So I was a very inquisitive kid. So that's kind of how that started with the book. Yeah.
Man, you went to YouTube University. Now you wrote that book, then you pivoted. You wrote another book about mental
Yeah.
battles. Why did you write the book
Yeah.
about mental battles?
I wrote the book about mental battles because for me, even though I was doing all of these positive things and trying to be a positive role model and I'm doing all of that in school, my mental health, even at that age, was not in a good place. I was suicidal, the young man. I was a very depressed young man. A lot of that too had to come with the bullying aspect that was happening in school at that time. And at that time, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like, I'm around here trying to be positive, but yet I go to school and I feel like the smallest person, the smallest thing here, being belittled. And, outside of that, it was a lot of things going on outside of school, that was, triggering a lot of mental health things for me. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and write this book. Let me go ahead and write this book for these young kids. And by the grace of God, those two books have done, very, very well. We have traveled all over, different schools and organizations and, school libraries had got the books and from different, schools across, the United States. And it was a crazy time to see all of those kids be impacted. And something that rung to me at that young age was, you know, just because these young people are younger, than us adults, it doesn't mean that what they go through is any less, important or any less valuable. So I want it to be that beacon of light for somebody my age who can read the book and say, I get that because this is where I am. So that was kind of what pushed that book. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a beautiful. Actually, I'm sitting here listening to you say that, and I'm thinking to myself, that's a beautiful idea because I always tell people this: the most important person to talk to somebody is not just your parents, it's your peers. It's people who are in your age group or in your generation that you can talk to and say, "Hey, I know what you're going through because I'm going through it too." And that's a wonderful thing that you had the foresight to see that at such an early age.
Yeah, yeah. It was something, man. I look back now. And I sometimes think about the journey that God has placed me on, and I say, wow, that really was nothing but God. Because being so young and so motivated and so driven to be a light. I remember I had made a vow to myself at a young age, and I told my parents about this vow. I said, I want to do something I've never seen no kid my age do to show the next young person that they can do it too. And that's something that I've always stuck by. And yeah, it was a crazy time.
Now let's pivot. Let's talk about the filmmaking. You've made 21 films. What was the one project you worked on as a creator that kind of changed you as a person?
That's an amazing question. Wow. You know what? I would have to say my very first short film, Lost. When I won 13, I remember they showed the short film at AMC, and we was at the award show with my parents, and I'm sitting there and I'm just seeing all of these other, people from all over, winning all these kind of awards, and I'm sitting there and they haven't called my category, so I'm just sitting there just like, oh, it'd be nice to get one of these. And I remember they called my name and my film had won in my category, my very first short film, very first time going into filmmaking. I was like, wow. So I remember after I sat up there and I got that award, I came back to my parents' seat. I said, "All right, are y'all ready for this ride? We about to go on because I think I'm about to do this." And from then on, that's when my mind really started shifting into being more of a creative. I was already a writer, writing books, but writing films and all of that was a whole different ball game. It was a whole different format, whole different structure, whole different everything. So I was 16 at this point, and I decided, I said, you know what, take my I'm gonna take my short film that I made and I'm gonna turn it into a full length feature. I'm gonna do a full on feature, full on film. And I wrote that movie maybe within a week. I know that was probably the most trying week of my family's life because they would just walk by my room and every piece of depressing music you can think of I was playing because the story is a very it's a very sad story. So they was just like, "Ooh, I can't wait till you done with this movie." Our house feels so dark right now. But yeah, I went ahead and I made the film at 16, which taught me a lot. That was the first time I had crew, an actual crew. First time I've had, cast, like a full-on cast, full-on extras, full-on locations. And what made that project for me even what made that project so significant is because when I look back, I'm 16 directing, my DP is maybe 18, 19 at the time. My sound guy is 16. All of my crew, everybody was like up under the age of 20, 21. But what was insane was these are young people that was just like me, that was doing things that were insane. My sound guy was already working on TV shows and movies, and my DP was already doing a lot of big things. Now he does stuff for Netflix and all of the big guys now. But we was just young kids at the time, just that had a dream that pushed it, that's just said we're gonna make this happen. And that experience taught me a lot about teamwork. It taught me it grew me a lot as a person and as a creative, especially being so young. So that was kind of like the first experience. But actually, I got to backtrack if you don't mind, because it's coming back to me. Like I said, my mind 83. It's coming back to me. Also, when I was 15, I had did my first stage play. I had wrote a stage play. We had 2 sold out shows, one being at the Hollywood Culture Arts Center, and then no, I think we did both shows there, if I'm not mistaken. But however, we did the shows and it was both sold out productions. First time having like full on set, full on top to bottom production run, full on, band in the back, full like it was a whole thing. If anybody knows me, and I know my uncle Rick can attest, if I'm gonna do something, it ain't gonna look like oh, this is first time doing it.
Right.
Nah,
Right.
yeah, I'm a perfectionist. I'm like, if it ain't hitting there, oh, we ain't doing it. We ain't going there. So I'll say that time changed me too, because that's actually what prepared me to do the movie. That's actually what gave me the confidence to go and actually direct a full movie, was actually like putting together that production. Because I'm like, theater is its own beast by
Right.
itself. So if you
Right.
can tackle that, you can definitely do this.
Let me ask you this. Now, your art is featured on Tubi and Amazon. And when did you realize people were really paying attention to what you were doing?
If I'm being honest, I don't even think I paid attention to it. If I'm being honest, my mind has always been tunnel vision, bullet point. Let's just go. But I would say the time where it surprised me was when I just turned 17. We had just the feature film I'm talking about, Lost, went over to London. We won 2 awards over there at a big film festival, the London Film Festival over there. And we was coming back. When we came back, and I was preparing to do the premiere, I didn't expect everything to happen the way it happened. I think that was the first time I noticed, like, wow, I actually got people that actually supports me. We had got the what is it? It was the Manual Art Time Theater. We had about close to about 700 people come out for that night for the premiere of my film, and we had, red carpets and everything. The mayor, he gave me my own day, during that same time. I was it was a lot. It was a lot of traveling, a lot of moving back and forth, a lot of press, a lot, and that was also during, Oscar weekend, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was during Oscar weekend because they did, like, a whole piece on me, out there in LA, about that, and I was just like, that's crazy to think that, sometimes when you just put your head down and you're just so used to working, when you get up and you finally take that moment to breathe, you look and you like, wow, like I ain't expect all this. So I think that was the first time where like it really hit me like, well, I actually got people that pay attention to me. So yeah.
Now you got Predestined out right now, and you got a strong cast: Brett Gray, Cedric the Entertainer, a host of other people. Let's talk a little bit about that, man. How did you put this together?
First off, let me tell you, this was probably one of my most challenging films to do, and I loved every bit of it. But it was challenging because we shot that in the pandemic, and I mean fresh into the pandemic. This was early 2020. The world had just shut down, and we was already in preps to do Predestined. So I was just like, you know what? The world shut down, but we ain't. So we gonna make this happen. So we had to follow strict protocol. Everybody, even on set, if we were not in the scene, everybody was social distancing. We had to have masks. Literally every 5 to 10 minutes, everybody's putting on sanitizer. Like I never had to run a set like that. But it was a very interesting thing to do. I would say Predestined is probably one of my most heartfelt projects because I got to not only tell this story that I wanted to tell about this young girl who became this R&B star, from the church world, and her mother passes and she got to come back to the church and, kind of pick up where her mom left off, which is really not what she wanted to do. But I got a chance to work with my family. I come from a very talented family. My mother was heavy in music, my brother heavy in music. My brother was the music director for the entire project because it's a musical. So he wrote all of the music, wrote all of the
Wow.
songs. Yeah, and vocal produced, and I do a little 1-2 on the vocals. So me, my mom, and my brothers, and my family, we all came in and we recorded. I think it was like a 16 album soundtrack we put together for that film, and we was able to get some amazing cameos, even in the midst of the pandemic, which was honestly nothing but a blessing. We was able to get Annalise, Vanderpool from That's So Raven, Rick Gray from On My Blog, Cedric the Entertainer, Jacqueline Carr, and the Carton. But we was able to get these folks to be involved in this project, which was honestly a blessing within itself, especially during a time where ain't nobody was flying out, nobody was
Right,
doing nothing. The
right.
world was sitting down. And I was just like, we're going to make this film. And that film really changed me. That was my second feature film. I was 19 at the time of doing Predestined, and the response from it was just amazing. So it was definitely a time. Yeah.
Now, your documentary, Embracing the Dream, it shows from homelessness to Hollywood about your family. Why was it time to make this documentary and tell the story? And what did your family think about it after they got to see it for the first time?
Well, my dad said if I'd known it was gonna look like this, I would have wore a better shirt. So, we did
uh,
document it.
that's
I did.
Southside Chicago coming
Oh,
out of
that's
your daddy
Southside
right there.
Chicago. That's Southside Chicago. He was just like, if I knew it was gonna look like this, I would have worn some better clothes. But no, the document, because the story of, honestly, I wanted to show a story of a family, of a black family that live in America, that don't come from riches, that don't come from having a silver spoon in their mouth, but this is a family of unity. And when I say that, yes, my name is at the forefront of a lot of what I do because I spearhead a lot of what I do, but I would be nothing without this amazing family, with this amazing team that God has blessed me with. Because when I tell you, we are literally hand in hand, and you see that in the documentary, and it's not even just me, it's also my brother, who's also songwriter, singer, especially during that time in his life. He was traveling, in and out of the country performing, and you see all of that in the documentary, late night studio sessions, with him, and us traveling and us doing things with me and my speaking and all and everything. And the documentary, honestly, I wanted to show a black family that knows how to stick together, a black family that has gone through the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows, but yet still remain consistent. And I believe that the story was important to show, you know, especially you talking about a family with 3 sons, you know, who could be out here, you know, doing a little bit of everything, you know, getting
Right,
into a whole bunch of
right,
trouble.
right,
You
right.
know, and that's something important, you know, I wanted to show. And I remember when we did a premiere of the documentary in, I wanna say that was Kentucky, and I remember it was Don Gee, the, anchor. She's an anchor over there, and she came to the premiere, and when she got up on the mic, and you actually see it in the documentary, she went to crying, and she was saying how she do news reports every day about young black men lying dead on the street. And when I watch this, this makes me think about my boys. This makes me think about this next generation of young black men that is coming. And that's what I wanted to show. I wanted to show positivity in that light. And that's why I believe it was so important to, you know, do this docu.
You know, you've had the presidential award, you've been recognized in London and Milan, so you've been recognized internationally and here domestically. Let me ask you this. One, how did it feel to be recognized internationally? And two, getting the presidential award. I mean, that had to be
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah. It was a crazy time. First starting from the London thing, you know, it was crazy because right after the London, my life had really did a turn. It went different, you know. Right after that, I was just like, well, you know what? I'm gonna try my foot in TV, you know, because that's always been my goal. You know, I know a lot of filmmakers, you know, we look for the Oscars and the big awards and stuff like that. I'm just like, Lord, bless me with my own show. And you know, so I went and I remember I went to Atlanta. I had produced a pilot, you know, the pilot ultimately went to Wendy Williams Productions at the time, and then it bounced from Wendy to, I believe it was Headhunter, and then from there to Shakim, and Queen Latifah's production company, and, you know, then COVID happened, so everything kind of, you know, shut down from then. But it taught me a lot. It taught me to be grateful for these moments because you don't have to be blessed, you know, to have these moments. And that's why I say now I have a different appreciation for it now because I mean, like you look back and I'm like, you mean to tell me I'm 14 and I'm on BET being honored with Ava DuVernay, Marvin Sapp, you know, I'm being honored with Bishop T.D. Jakes, you know, my heroes, Harry Belafonte, you know, Gina Belafonte, you know, I'm being honored of one Sidney Poitier, like all of these people at this young age. And I'm just like, God, that's crazy. You know, like to think that you set a young black boy from Miami up to do these things, and I don't take it for granted. Not at all. I don't take none of that for granted because none of it is me. You know, I'm just the vessel that, you know, God chose to use, you know, to ultimately do these things. So I would say it feels good, but it teaches me a lot. It actually keeps me more grounded and humble than anything.
When young filmmakers ask where to start, what do you tell them?
Oh, YouTube University, start there. Yeah, YouTube University, start there. Imma be honest, nowadays, it's different from when I started. You know, when I started, it wasn't too many tutorials, it wasn't too many anything, you know. I mean, I started this was like before Instagram, before TikTok, before like this is when we still had them big old Sony cameras, them
Yeah,
broadcast cameras
yeah,
that you had to put on your
yeah,
shoulder, and this
yeah,
is what I'm shooting music videos and stuff with, you know?
yeah.
Them old news, like that was doing this how I was just trying to figure stuff out. Now it's completely different. Anything that you want now, you know, I'm a little jealous of these generation now. 'Cause I'm like, if I had these tools back then, oh my
Right,
gosh,
right.
especially with AI now and all of that stuff. And you know, but I'll say start with self education is important. Self education, you know, educate yourself first. I believe that anything that you want to step into, you got to step into it at least knowing something. You ain't gonna know everything, but you got to know something. So educate yourself, you know, on the business, on what it is that you're trying to do. Read everything. I remember I would stay up, I would read almost every article that ran across my feed. I would read almost every book, every YouTube tutorial I would watch. I was just a sponge. And in this industry, that's how you gotta be. You never stop being a student.
Let me ask you this. After all the things you've done, what's the next mountain for you to climb?
Oh, that TV show. This is what we're coming back to. Next year, 2026, I am dropping a television pilot. And we're gonna run with it and we're gonna give it all we got. Because I truly believe in this story, and it's actually a story on mental health, but it's very twisted, it's very dark. It deals with politics, government, sex trafficking. Honestly, and this is a story I wrote when I was like 17 to see
You
that.
you need to meet you need to let me be an advisor on that to talk about the legal stuff. I can give you all the legal ins and
Come
outs.
on. Come, you know what? And listen. What's funny enough, I'm actually, and I'm glad you said it, because Imma talk to you, Imma be talking to you because I'm actually going to school to do entertainment law, which is crazy. I graduate next year from college, so I'm glad that I got somebody I can call on and like, "Hey."
Look, not only me, my daughter is a first year law student right now. So, and
So
she's going to do entertainment law. That's what she's going to school
yeah.
for. So, we will
Oh, that's
definitely have
awesome.
that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Congratulations to your daughter. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so definitely, man, because I think what you've done is amazing. I think God is all over you. I think that's obvious. Anybody who knows God can see the brightness of God all over you, the shine. I'm excited to see what else you're gonna do for us as a group, as a nation, as a world, because I think your stories affect everybody. And brother, you got a big fan now. You got a big fan. My show is your show. Anything you doing, anything you got going on, you come on here. We talk about it. We're promoted for you always. How can people follow you? How can people learn more about you, brother?
Definitely, definitely. Everybody, you can follow me on all of my social media at Aaron Avant Johnson. It's my full government name. Blame my parents, not me. Aaron Avant Johnson. And then my website, aajpfilms.com. You can stay updated on everything that we got going on. And yeah, everybody, just stay tuned. You know, we're bringing LCC back, which is an amazing event we put on here honoring amazing creatives like, you know, my big uncle Rick, you know, like, you know, several other people, Demetri McKinney, Chrissy Collins, all of these amazing people that has worked in this business. And we're bringing that back again. So I'm very excited about this next round of honorees that we're going to be doing. And yeah, we got a lot of great things coming. So y'all just stay tuned.
I love it, brother. And your big uncle Rick deserves all the praise in the world because not
All of it.
only has he trailblazed in every industry that he's touched, but he's also mentored and pulled up and supported everybody he's come in contact with that he felt was worthy of that. And there's a lot of cats
Absolutely.
that don't do that. And so
Absolutely.
he's literally he's a rose in a concrete jungle. And we all need to honor that brother too as well. So I'm glad you honoring your Uncle Rick because he
Yeah.
deserves all the flowers.
Listen, living legend, living legend.
Yes,
That's what I
sir.
call him,
Yes, sir.
living
Yes,
legend.
sir. Yes,
Listen,
sir.
Rick Party, Party, Party.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I
yes,
grew up on,
yes,
living
yes,
legend.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Brother, we will talk soon. Thank you, Aaron. Everybody, we'll be right back. You're listening to Common Ground.